Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're over 1,600. I want to thank everybody once again for the subs today. And we're going to get one more game in. 10-minute game. We're over 1,600. Let's go. Okay, so we haven't faced the English yet. And I'm going to play this in principled fashion. Let's go e5. Let's play the reverse Sicilian. For SB8, thank you for the prime. Now, as you might know, we play the Alapin Sicilian with white against the Sicilian. And the reverse Alapin is a very much viable system against the English. And it's quite theoretical. It's very popular in recent times. Bishop g2 is already inaccurate. White is supposed to strike at the center or go knight f3. Now, this allows us to go d5 and control the center. We basically play this as if we're on the white side of an Alapin. Oh, g3 and e3. So a very passive setup by our opponent here. Very passive setup by our opponent here. Which doesn't necessitate anything in particular on our part. Just normal development, I think, will suffice. Knight c6, knight f6. Yeah, it doesn't really matter which pieces we develop first here. Opponent's pushing a heck of a lot of pawns. Let's go knight f6. Knight e2. Now, some of you may know that I like to play e4 in such positions. But if you play e4 prematurely, well, what's the downside? White might go d3, and it might be hard to sustain that pawn on e4. Does that make sense? So if you play it without sufficient development, it potentially might backfire. d5 being a weakness is not such a big problem because we're defending it. Well, bishop e6, queen d7, and long castle is an idea, but with the c-file being open, and with white having quite easy pawn pressure, I don't think we should be castling queenside here. At least I feel like it's needlessly risky. We could give e4 a shot and see what happens, but I prefer conventional, simple development. So where should this bishop go? We can go to e6. Safeguard pawn on d5. Very conservative move, but you know, there's no need to, you know, rediscover the wheel and distribute the code vaccine all at once. Now we have a couple of approaches that we could take here. We could definitely go h5. We could play queen d7. I like the move queen d7 a lot as a way to start because it's very flexible. We're preparing bishop h3 in some cases, but we're not necessarily committing to anything in particular. Okay. Now, once again, this is one of those positions, I'm struggling to communicate this, where there are so many different ways you can develop and play, and all of them are probably approximately equivalent. But once again, we're adhering to the general strategy of completing our development before embarking on anything specific. So I'd like to develop this bishop. Well, where should we develop it? Well, one thing to keep in mind is that white is very likely to play d4. And then after e4, you might notice that white's knight might jump onto f4. That's quite an annoying square. So by playing bishop d6, we're preempting that. We're preparing to take that knight. b4. Right now, I think it's high time for us. Let's go with the attacking approach. I think we've completed our development. I think now we could go for the attacking approach. Let's go h5. And I'm not worried about b5. We just drop our knight back. This is a paper tiger. Let's go. h5, h4. You know the drill. We've had a million games in the Hippo where we won precisely in this way. The purpose of this is to open the h-file, then bishop h3 will come, and white's position collapses very, very quickly. So d4, we want to play e4. We want to close down the center. Okay, f3. Pretty good stuff by our opponent, but I feel like it's too slow. So we need to figure out whether we need to respond to the tension in the center. So obviously, there's a certain temptation to play h4, but if you look more carefully, you'll see that we're just giving up the e4 pawn for nothing. So it's worth taking on f3 first, and then going h4 to open up the h-file. Yeah, we could play bishop h3, but that's unnecessary. Bishop h3 is unnecessary. Let's keep our bishop here to defend the pawn on d5. And now we're very close to opening the h-file. And once we open the h-file, I mean, stuff is going to happen. Stuff is going to go down. Now, that's a blunder. That's just a panic move. I think our opponent trying to go rook h1 but forgetting about bishop h3, which now wins an exchange. Oh, hippo violation. I only understood that now. Jesus. King f2. Well, it's worth throwing in h takes g3 check just to open the h file. Just to open the h file, because later our rook may infiltrate to h2. Now we take on f1, and we're just taking everything here. Okay, that's another blunder. Our opponent totally collapsing here. He should have taken with the knight. Should have taken with the knight, but then we would have played queen out to f5, which is obviously crushing as well, and rook takes h2. That's it. Nothing remains of white's king side, and resigns. That was pretty smooth. That was pretty smooth. So notice how much easier it was to attack once we completed our development at the start of the game. So yeah, the thing about the English is that white has a couple of ways that they can arrange the pieces. White can play the immediate g3, which is sort of the traditional English. And here c6 is a very good line. But white can also start with knight c3. And here c6 is not very good because of d4. Here c6 is not very good because of d4. So here you need a different line. And most people end up playing knight f6, although bishop b4 is also a move here. But after knight f6, g3, I have to check, but I think c6 here is still possible. So I'll look into this, and I will make a video, with black against the English, but I'll need to do some research and see whether c6 here is viable or not. I'm not very well versed in these lines. I myself have played bishop b4 in this position, but this is a very kind of hard to analyze line. Lots of sub variations, and it's not all that fun. So anyways, but you can see that c6 threw him in for a loop. And e3 is this is just some sort of, weird hippo where pawns have been traded and white is down a bunch of tempi. So it's just not viable at all. And of course, we could have played e4. We could have played e4 with the idea of going knight e5 and clamping down on his light squares. But then after d3, I was a little bit concerned that, again, that this pawn would become a pretty big weakness. And in the event of knight e5, d takes e4, I really don't want to trade queens. That greatly diminishes the effect of us putting a knight, let's say, on f3. But how about bishop f5 to support? Well, yeah, bishop f5 was an alternative to bishop e6, for sure. But the other issue is that, let's say white castles and we play e4. At this point, white can even consider going f3. And once again, trying to break down this pawn. And again, we're not developed on our king side, so that could end up costing us a little bit. So we took the sort of conventional approach, bishop e6, queen d7. There's nothing wrong with that. And only after d4 did we play e4 to close down the center. And then we just crushed him down the h file. Pretty straightforward game. We won 3 or 4 of these in the speedrun exactly in this way. If white plays h4, then it's not out of the question that we would go g5 and just sack everything and then go h4. Even this line, even h4 here should be considered. Maybe it's bad, but even this is an interesting idea. Bishop h1, we have h2 and bishop h3, which is crushing. So there is a lot that we can do here, but we don't have to rush with g5. We can also go, for example, knight e7 and get this knight around to f5. There's plenty of things that we can do here, and black is better, much better in all cases. So in any case, that was a pretty simple game. All right, guys, I'm really tired. I'm going to go to bed. I will try to stream tomorrow. I'll be taking a break this week. But I will try to stream tomorrow around... I will try to do the second title Tuesday. We'll see. So, yeah. Thank you, guys. This was fun. Got that rating. And hopefully see you guys tomorrow. So, thanks, everybody. Let's raid Gari. And I'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Thanks for hanging out. Good night.